Hello and a very warm welcome to everyone. I am Shrija Agrawal and you're watching a special topic today discussion, cybersecurity in the new normal. As you know, the COVID-19 pandemic and the implementation of social distancing directives which ensued that meant business operations were going to be changed to 180 degrees. And this also meant that companies needed to reassess and address their cybersecurity measures and have a relook at their technology infrastructure. Now, this 180-degree change brought to us by the COVID-19 induced transformative shift to telework for a large portion of the workforce, which have also spent new IT capabilities wherever possible. While we are still in the middle of a Delta variant, companies still need to persist in de-risking their organizations and adapt and evolve their processes for this new normal or the never normal, as I say it. Will these changes be seen from those the lens of resilience for a more secure and agile enterprise? Can policy really catch up to this new movement even when it lagged behind pre COVID? The fact of the matter really is that the cybersecurity conversation or technology conversation in the pre COVID days relegated to a chief technology officer or to a chief risk officer. With post COVID and with so much digital transformation being bandied around so loosely, this has actually become the CEO conversation or a very important boardroom conversation. To break down the cybersecurity in the new normal, I have with me Sunil Sharma, Managing Director for Sophos India and SAARC region. Sunil, thank you for talking to us. My first question to you really is about the elephant in the room and what we all are talking about. The COVID-19 pandemic has essentially rendered social distancing rubrics, altered enterprise processes, and it has vastly altered the economic realities, which means that there had to be some changes in cybersecurity measures and tech infrastructure with the onset of this major wave of digitization. My question to you really is this, from your organization's point of view, what does cybersecurity look like in this new normal with the newer meaning of what risk is?
Uh, Thank you for inviting me for this discussion, Shrija. In new normal, and the question is very pertinent in today's scenario, although people started working on this almost 1.5 years back when the pandemic actually started. And it was a major challenge for all the CISOs, CTOs, and even the CEOs because business was just coming to an halt. Uh, I would like to congratulate all these CISOs, CIOs who actually made this business happen. The business started, happening from the e-commerce transactions perspective or any business which was related to IT. So people who were working at office, they shifted to home, and they were exactly doing what they were doing at office. Now, how that was made possible, and it was primarily they are CISOs and CIOs, the way they strategized and the kind of cyber security which they provided at home was equivalent to their branch offices. I'm not denying the fact that the new normal definitely had more vulnerabilities, had more attack chances, cyber threats for each individual. Because let us say you yourself you were working yesterday in an office, and suddenly now you are supposed to be. I'm talking about pre-pandemic situations. Obviously, today, if someone asks you that you need to work from home, we all of us are working from home, and people are also going to offices wherever situation is almost normal. But pre-pandemic, your laptop, your device is behind so many security firewalls and the layers of security in the corporate world. But the moment you are coming out of it, and while you are trying to work from home, your network is exposed, or your laptop is exposed to a network where there's no firewall. I mean, until unless you have actually taken care of the VPN connectivity, number one. Number two, you have taken measures in terms of have actually cybersecurity. If you have been a user of cloud security, then one needs to understand about that it's a shared responsibility. It is not just one single person responsibility, or not the cloud service provider who are providing you a cloud. So primarily, as we shifted from pre-pandemic to post-pandemic, No doubt that everyone faced a lot of challenges, but today the new normal is we are all working from home, and all of us have a phenomenal kind of security. Although the post-pandemic, when I look at, there is a new change which has happened. All our laptops or devices working from home are being treated as simply branch offices. So the kind of security which is being provided on your laptop today is a branch level of security what any of the branch office can have. So yes, after post pandemic, those actions, proactive measures have been taken care of, and that could be only possible by virtue of zero trust kind of security which has been provided by the CISO and CIOs, by virtue of having your devices being in the cloud, your applications being in the cloud, and the cloud is being secured. Not only the security which is being provided by the cloud provider, the infra provider, but at the same time you as CISO has also taken care of that responsibility, which is a shared responsibility. People who have taken cyber security as a system and they have been adapting to that continuously and consistently are the ones who have been actually up against this race. Otherwise, many of them have felt the attacks, and ransomware attacks in their perception has actually increased. If you look at the numbers of attacks versus post pandemic and pre pandemic have been almost similar, but because the surface area, you look at the kind of applications people, while you're working at home, there is one of your kid who is also using your laptop for education purpose. So there is a application which has been installed on your laptop. Now you don't know whether that application is fully patched and without any vulnerability. So those kind of precautions and preventive measures have been taken care by CISO and CIOs. A continuous monitoring is absolutely required in this kind of post pandemic scenarios. Otherwise it becomes a major challenge for any organization to understand who has attacked them. At the same time, they will have biggest challenge in terms of people asking for a ransom, and encrypting their data.
Thanks for that insight, Sunil. So clearly, what I'm gathering is that CIOs and CISOs have been extremely agile in this post-COVID environment to really shield themselves from number of cyber attacks. The question really is that, it says that prevention is kind of better than cure. We've all sort of heard it. And what I gather from what you just said is that the number of cyber attacks in the last 4.5 years has proved that only prevention of cyber threats is not clearly working out. Organizations need to essentially focus on threat detection and threat hunting. And one needs to accept the reality that adversaries will enter their network, and organizations should concentrate on stopping these adversaries from achieving the objective. So, what is Sophos' viewpoint on the importance of threat detection and hunting in the post pandemic world, where for adversaries, the attack surface has considerably increased, as you mentioned, and for organizations, each location from their employees' workforce has actually become a new branch or the new hotspot to which they need to provide cybersecurity?
This is, I think, all the customers and to all my audience, I would want to say that when you look at security, security has to be looked in two ways. One is prevention, and another one is detection. So when you go for prevention, all the securities in the past, we have been always talked about prevention. Whether you talk about endpoint security, you talk about firewall, which is the network security, you talk about access point, everything is all about prevention. And there is no doubt that prevention is better than cure. But at the same time, the kind of attacks which are happening now, you'll be surprised that adversaries which come into your network, they actually, as per our Sophos playbook, research what we have done, as per that particular research, we have found that adversary, before it actually takes a face of an attack, or before it actually gets converted into an ransomware attack, it takes at least 11 days before it gets detected. So the point is, someone who is, you look at the example of any of your society. You have cameras, and you have cameras which are intelligent cameras. And when someone is trying to enter into a society, you are actually, your camera is able to identify that this guy could be a thief, or this guy could be a from the cyber security perspective, a malicious person who can actually malign your network, who can actually do some kind of illegal activity inside your network. Now, one is that you identify. So you identify and you stop. But you will also have people who are looking like absolutely very genuine, very handsome, and looking like honest people. Okay, so face of the person is honest, his physical appearance is absolutely honest, like a gentleman appearance. And now on the camera, you are not able to catch that guy. And this guy sits inside your society, but planning to do an attack inside the society. And it takes 11 days as per, the research which I was talking about. So for those kind of people, there is a service which is called detection. And that is exactly in today's world, for all my CIOs and all my CISOs are, I think, now trying to understand, how do I monitor that particular thing 24 by 7? And not only just monitor, the moment this guy is different from a gentleman, or it is a malicious one, how do I differentiate that and keep observing that person for 24 by 7? So when the guy entered into your society, who was actually looking like a gentleman, when he went inside this society, what kind of activities he's doing, we are actually beyond a gate, we are not observing that. And that's where the prevention part gets finished, and that's where the detection part it starts actually. And that detection today, in the form of, people are calling that as managed threat response. MTR is a service what Sophos provides. A lot of people also call that as an MDR. So the point is that it is very, very important that either you have in your organization, you need to have your person who is able to observe each and every person's, those people who are entering, and observe their activity and what exactly they are doing. And based on that, they can identify that he's a rogue. And that's where they can primarily take an proactive action to prevent from such an attack. Or you can give that service to some third party. You also have third party. So companies like Sophos, also provide this kind of service directly to their customers through our channel partners. And that is what, this differentiation between prevention and detection. And nowadays, I would want to say that to all my dear customers, that prevention is important. There is absolutely no doubt about it. So I'm not asking you to not take care of your infrastructure by virtue of not deploying the all prevention appliances and techniques and tools, but you also need to have tools which can actually help you to do that monitoring 24 by 7. And that is where the play comes. That is where the MTR services kind of comes into the picture. If you have good threat hunters, that services primarily, this is called threat hunting services. If you have good threat hunters, then inside your organization, it is absolutely good, because the solution what Sophos provides to their customers is called XDR, extended detection and response. And to do the MTR, which is to manage this, someone has to manage. So either you need to have your threat hunters who can manage. Let's say you have some kind of report, some which could be a hint that this could be a malicious activity. Please find out. So if your own staff is doing it, or someone is doing on your behalf, it is absolutely very, very important.
Thanks for that insight, Sunil. So one was gathering that you really can't rely on appearances. Like you mentioned, a very handsome looking or a good looking person might be going, but he or she in the garb of that face could be a malicious one. And it is extremely important for organizations to be on their vigil 24/7. And that is where organizations like Sophos sort of come in to provide threat hunting and that 24/7. I think it's interesting how we began this conversation, the scope of cybersecurity in the new normal, how threat hunting has become the imperative. So the question really is that, we've heard a lot and learned a lot about fragility and anti-fragility in the past 1 year, or say 1.5 years. And a lot of loopholes have been exposed sort of across sectors about the structural integrity of organizations. Now, the question really is that given that you are occupying a very important position in the ecosystem right now, with this collection of data, where there's so much of repository that you are sitting on across sectors you're working. If you can tell me which sector is perhaps reeling the most from where cyber attacks are taking place and why? What really is characteristic of those sectors, those spaces, which makes them so prone or vulnerable to those threats?
To my larger audience, you spoke about anti-fragility. I think that's a word which coined very recently, and I'm so proud that people are talking about learning from their mistakes. Okay, so anti-fragility is in a similar type of definition, which is primarily for the tech users, where any kind of shock, any kind of attack, and they keep learning from that. And that's exactly when you look at the artificial intelligence and other technologies where they are being used. Now, to answer your question, that which are the sectors got most impacted, we have a report from Sophos. Sophos ransomware report, which is retail in 2021, and Sophos ransomware report in education in 2021. These are the two reports which we came out with, and these two reports suggested that 44% of the organizations got hit from these two segments. So they were the most impacted segments and verticals during the pandemic time. Now, when I look at the first one, let's say, for example, the retail, why retail got hit? So when you look at retail as a function, many organizations, when the lockdown happened, everyone wanted to order online, and by virtue of that, so there were one structured kind of organizations which were working since for the last 10 years, 20 years, and they knew what kind of cybersecurity is required for their infra and their network. So they were quite decent enough in terms of their cybersecurity posture. But a lot of organizations during this time also came up, and they wanted to, because how it impacted the employability during the lockdown time. People lost jobs, and they wanted to start something which was working during that time. So they actually joined or opened up their new ventures, and it was all about e-commerce transactions. And when they opened up that, very few of them actually took help of cybersecurity experts. They just opened up, they went on to the hub and say that, okay, this is my www dot, they bought that domain name, and then they started some few services with obviously the few infra, payment gateway, etc., etc. But they forgot that the kind of cybersecurity which is required for them and their customers' data to be secure was not good enough. And that's where these criminals, cyber criminals, actually took advantage of it. And there is a new terminology which actually came during this time, is that cyber criminals were not interested in encrypting their data. Rather, they were more interested to trade in, and they would want to say that, boss, I have this data with me. If you don't give me this money, it's a threat, then I will leak this entire customer data of there. Now, customer data has the credit card, debit card, payment, all that payment information, their personal information, etc., etc. So this is how the retail segment got. And retail segment, if you look at their IT is like more complex kind of IT and distributed networks. It's not just at one location. You need to serve and do the many branches. And the people who were actually managing, they were not very skilled kind of cybersecurity skilled kind of people. So that's that's one of the second point which I would want to mention, that how this particular vertical got the most attacks. So these were some of the reasons where, and thirdly but not last, the retail segments were the one where you would find more concise detail of credit card information and user detail information, finance related information. So it was absolutely pertinent for cyber criminals to make use of it and ask for a ransom to these organizations. So that's where this retail segment got. Now when you look at the education segment, education is also in similar way. One is that in education, how stressed they are in. For example, if you have 5,000 students or users who are supposed to be using, first of all, converting them from, they were taking physical classes and suddenly they were supposed to migrate to online classes. First, that infra was not good enough. So limited budgets, again, education segment, you always have that challenges. They are not like big corporates. So that was second issue. And third is that you always have the users are very creative kind of people. I'm calling them creative because they would always like to download some pirated software, or they want to, I would not say they would want to download pirate. They would want to download free softwares. And normally free softwares, when you download, normally exceptions are always there, then you one is that the software which you are downloading is not the genuine one, number one. Number two, that you will have lot many vulnerabilities into it. So that's again the user segment was like that. So these were the criteria. And when you look at the IT itself, they are not the IT staff. You will find in education segment you have 2 or 3 persons, and you have this kind of entire audience, because the understanding of education segment prior pandemic was that everyone was coming to the class and they were attending physical classes, and suddenly when they were asked to attend online classes, that infra was too low, and the software, you would find that softwares are not being patched properly. There are vulnerabilities. So cyber criminals could find very easy way getting inside their network and made those attacks, and they could find a large surface area to be available for them to do those attacks. So these are the two segment which I would say were the most impacted, Shrija.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Sunil. That was extremely meaningful. So retail and education extremely vulnerable. And you have rightly pointed out the reasons. For education, definitely the migration to online was sudden, the infrastructure was weak, and so was for retail. Everything wanted to be online because we're shopping so much online. We spoke about the scope, the area surface being increasing, the threat hunting aspect, digitization becoming an imperative, and so is cybersecurity management. And the question really is that at the heart of all of this, which can only thrive, is policy. We had this entire conversation, the RegTech conversation, where technology is evolving so fast, but regulation is not being able to keep pace with it. So there's actually a new field, which is called the RegTech, where regulation not being able to keep pace with technology are the discussions and the narratives being talked about. My question to you really is that with all that is going on and these constant updates on newer and newer technologies coming to the fore, what can the government really do to catch up and combat cyber attack in terms of policy? What really are the systemic and institutional loopholes do you observe that you feel which needs immediate remedy?
Shrija, for government, I think government is doing a good job in cybersecurity world. There are many proactive policies, and IT Act is in place now. So I'm really thankful to the India government, and this government is definitely doing a wonderful job. But government can do to a certain extent. They will provide you a basic guideline and a policy and define, and they will also give you that these are fundamental rules and do's and don'ts. They will also give you that as awareness part of it. I'm sure you have also seen it, and I have seen lot many ads in the TV which are coming about, do not share the password, and there are so many ads which RBI has also started about, because finance is the most impacted one by virtue of each individual perspective. So government is doing their bit. I think it is the ownership of every corporate and every individual to be more aware about certain things and take appropriate action. We really cannot be most of the time I have seen that people start blaming government for something not happening. I think we need to look inward, and we need to have actions which we can do to ensure that our organization is secure. We do not download any material which is illegitimate material. We do not go to the websites where we are not supposed to be going. We follow some policies, and access rights, for example, should be with them who are supposed to be getting access, not everyone else has shared the password with third and fourth and fifth and sixth person. So basic things, government has already done it. I think ownership is with us. And as you rightly mentioned, digitization has actually forcing us. You look at today, I don't remember a day when I have gone in the last 1.5 years to bank to pick up money, cash. I don't remember, because everywhere you go to today, I mean, I think there are always some advantages and disadvantages, but this lockdown COVID, and one advantage is that even the patriwala, the hawker, you can make a Paytm. I mean, a coconut seller, I mean, who does not have a legitimate shop. Actually, you can buy coconut. You will be actually surprised that one day I decided to go to the market and I was not carrying the wallet. Normally I carry the wallet, and in wallet mostly the credit card or debit card. So I was carrying my phone, and suddenly I realized, oh God, I'm not carrying the wallet. So, but I could buy anything or everything with the help of my phone. I didn't need any cash to buy, or credit card to buy, or debit card to buy. So today, when such kind of digitization is happening, but at the same time, me as a user of this technology, I'm aware neither I go to such kind of websites, number one. Number two, the mails which are coming in, hey, you got a lottery. I don't treat that mails as legitimate mails. I'm very, very careful when someone says, hey, check on me, and you have an award. Please don't fall as a prey to such kind of phishing attacks, and be careful. Be careful. You got a call. Unless you ask the person who's that guy speaking. Hey, you remember I'm speaking? Hey, I remember, but what's your name? Who are you? So the point is that many such kind of cyber criminals who are trying to ask you a password, OTP, or even in the corporate world, when you go to the websites, you don't even know that someone has sent, hey, you are working for Sophos, here is an award. If you click this and you put in your records, boss, is it coming from a legitimate source? So very, very important is that we need to keep our eyes and ears open and follow the policy guidelines, and that awareness has to be spreaded to our peer groups too, everyone. So
Thanks for that, Sunil. I think that was extremely meaningful. That while digitization is a huge secular trend, India is riding on, the ownership is upon us as people. And while government will do its part in terms of awareness campaign, but the ownership, as you rightly put, should be on people. The buck stops with them. It's time for some quick rapid fire, some fun session. If I were to ask you, have you been hacked ever?
Never. I take you will be surprised. I got a call, and there was first that WhatsApp message, and then someone said that I am working for this company. I said, how the hell I know that you are working for that company? And that guy was, he was actually working for that company. So then he sent me a mail and gave me all the credentials that you can check my credentials. And when I went through those credentials, then only, I said, okay, now I am comfortable talking to you. So, and he was very impressed that you work for a cybersecurity company, you actually meant it. So I don't believe in saying something and not following through.
Great. You're a responsible employee of Sophos. I also wanted to ask you one book that you have read in the COVID time which has really changed you as a person.
Oops, there are many books which I always, advise my audience, and Leadership by Robin Sharma. I think if someone get a chance to read that,
Okay.
very good book.
Okay, my last question to you is that which is the naughtiest virus you had to deal with till now? The more cuter looking, but you ultimately found out to be the most malicious, as you put it. The threat hunting vigil has to be on for 24 hours.
All viruses, I want to tell you that they are very, very notorious. Okay. So, however their name could be, whether Loki or any kind of name you put, Dharma is one of the ransomware. Loki is one of the. So whatever name you put, they are all very, very notorious, and we need to have that vigil on our network, on our infra 24/7. And I would suggest to my audience that they should go for MTR kind of services.
Okay, thanks for that, Sunil. It was great having you. Thanks for your time and energy. Till I see you next. Goodbye and good luck. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shrija. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Thank you.